The vast majority of hunters and fishermen, men and women, that partake in this, there's certainly an enjoyment, but it's not because of a kill or something like that. I think it is the engagement, the centering of one's self on maybe a spiritual level with the outdoors. I consider wherever I go to be like a Kentucky embassy. I'm a Kentucky colonel. This house right here is Kentucky. The terminology of fly fishing is beyond me. I'm never going to pick this up. It's like a foreign language. All these flies, like, oh, you want to have a number 12 midge, that hairy booger, woolly bottom, rusty trombone. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Just give me the one that looks like the bug. Can I have the bug one? You look around. If you look on social media and you look around at all of the people who catch catfish, it's almost all working class people who catch catfish, but it's not related to race. There are white people, there are black people, there are people from like Vietnam, where catfish is very big over there, who come over, migrant families, Hispanic families. If you're working, it's truly a class identifier. If you catch catfish, you eat catfish, you're working class. And my great grandfather, Pippa, Hurley Chadwick is his name, looks at it and says, there he is. There's Ekenhammer. Now, Eli, I have no idea what the name Ekenhammer means, and neither does anyone else in my family, except for that's the name of this damn catfish.
Spending time outdoors isn't about escaping life. It's about remembering where we fit. Here, we honor the traditions that shape us, revere the life around us, care for the land beneath us, and connect to the world and the people around us. Because at the end of the day, we're all standing on the same ground. This is the ground between us.
All right. Hi, y'all. Welcome to the Ground Between Us, where the outdoors connects us all. My guest today is Dr. Jason Herbert, historian, tribal liaison for the Forest Service, general all-around Renaissance man. How are you today, Jason?
You know, it's funny. I am great. And the reason why, Eli, is that I'm actually drinking, you said before we started recording, you said coffee, and I'm actually drinking hot tea. I'm slowly turning into my great-grandmother as I get older. So I feel bad, because I'm from Kentucky. And I'm usually wearing blue, but the basketball team is not doing well right now. So I'm actually repping the University of Alabama's history department, and with my mug here, they sent me some swag, which is cool. So yeah, I'm good, man. I'm totally excited to talk to you today because we know people, which is fun.
Yeah, the West Virginia basketball team's doing pretty terribly also, but the memory of Kentucky basketball that lives forever in my mind is when we beat you guys on our way to the Final Four, but we don't have to go there right now.
No, in 2010, and the problem with that, I knew you were going to go there immediately because that team, the problem is whenever teams beat us in the tournament, which is going to happen, because chances are you're going to lose in the tournament, right? Is that whenever you don't finish the gosh darn deal, right? And then y'all went off and beat us and then allowed Duke to win the title that year. And that's the same thing that happened in 2015 when Wisconsin beat us and stopped us at our undefeated season and went off and just laid down for Duke. It's not the fact that you beat us, okay? It's that you allowed Duke to win, that you didn't finish the job. I mean, come on, Duke.
Well,
for reals.
I mean, if Deshaun Butler's ACL had stayed intact, it might have went a little bit differently. But
Huggins.
Yeah.
I mean, how does Kentucky lose that game with John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, and there's murderers on that team? So I didn't like that game going into it. I called a West Virginia upset, but also because Cal doesn't know how to coach. Like as a game coach. Anyway, but yes.
Yeah.
We survived.
I vividly remember, I think I was like out to dinner with my grandparents or something, but like listening to the tail end of that game on the way home on the radio and then sprinting in the house to see the end of it. I was like, I don't know, what would I have been, 13 then, but.
People come to me all the time because I have a shirt that says, I still hate Leitner. Because the game that is firmly in I was 14 during the Kentucky Duke game in 92 during the Leitner shot. And I have a shirt that still protests, still hates. And I live in Colorado now, and they don't know anything about basketball out here or actually food. Now that I think about it, they Salt is not a thing, and God forbid seasoning. Like,
Mhm.
I put pepper on. They're like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm from the South. I can handle it." But it was like, they're like, "Who's late?" I'm like, "It was a dark day. I cried. Just stop." Like, it still hurts.
Yeah.
So, and now we're in the basket. Now we're in the tournament season, and the cats are awful. So, maybe I should put some bourbon in this tea. Now that I'm thinking about it, now it was like going downhill with Eli and Jason. So yeah.
Yeah. That's funny you brought up food because when I was trying to write the rapid fires
Mhm.
for you earlier, I was gonna ask you what place you lived in had the best food, and I was like, "Wait, he's lived in Louisiana, that's not even a contest." I
Louisiana's
was
gonna
like,
win, like
yeah.
always, right? It's not even close because I grew up. So I was born in Western Kentucky. Like I could actually, like, it's so easy to put this stuff out there now. It's like I was born in a little town called Murray, which is in the Western Kentucky, right? And then we moved to Louisiana when I was 3, so my stepdad could work on the oil rigs offshore, right? So what happened was, like, when you were saying my name earlier, I was waiting for you to say Herbert or Abear, was because I get that a lot. And when we moved down there, I actually grew up as Jason Abear. And like, if you look at um, uh, like my yearbooks or whatever and stuff like that, or like the school photos, it's Hebert. They like purposely misspelled my name, assuming I was like a little Cajun down there too. And I grew up speaking Cajun French as my second language. I was fluent for a long time. But yeah, like tonight I'm literally making like jambalaya when we get done here. Like that's yeah, it wins. But you know what? People sleep on Florida, but Florida's amazing. Like I've actually lived in Florida for like half my life now. And you get all the influences there with the Caribbean stuff, and it's such a am I allowed to say diverse? Well,
Whatever
I
you
guess,
want, man.
right? It's such a diverse space that you really get a lot of cool stuff down there, and, like, the Caribbean influences and things like that. I make a lot of Cuban food. I'm kinda always posting about my Cuban coffee in the morning, stuff like that. So, like, Florida was really good. Now also lived in Kansas and Minnesota and now Colorado, and these are not places. The Midwest is famously not great for, and, like, the east side of the mountains out here in Colorado, I'm sorry, is very much the plains. It's the Midwest, I'm sorry. It is. I don't please. So, but I would tell you, um, Louisiana by a landslide, then Florida, then Kentucky/Tennessee, and then the rest. I mean, I guess Minnesota because it's really diverse. Like, there's like when I was going to graduate school at the University of Minnesota, um, Minneapolis, St. Paul is actually really cool. Have you ever been there before?
Mm-mm.
It is a great, great area. Like, I really dug the town, because you could go and get, like, Ethiopian food or Somalian food. Like, first time I ever ate camel was in Minneapolis, right? So you could actually get some good stuff, and then they have, like, walleye coming out of their ears up there, and that's good.
Yeah.
But walleye just kinda tastes like cod. They're like, "Oh, this is great." I'm like, "Catfish is better." So,
Yeah, I
whatever.
think walleye is kinda overrated too, personally.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do that beer batter thing.
Oh, I like the beer batter, I just don't care for I just think it's a
It's fine.
middling fish.
It's fine. It's
Yeah.
Eli, it's fine. It's fine, right? But that's because, again, like, all these guys are all Scandinavian, and they've grown up with, like, lutefisk or whatever, like all this, stuff that comes from, like, the old country in Sweden and Norway, and they're, like, salting it and putting it in God, and, like, it's all rotten. They're like, "Oh, this is good." I'm like, "No. How are you people so tall?" Eating this nonsense. So, and there goes my Minnesota viewership now that I think about it. So yeah, but no, Louisiana than Florida for certain.
Yeah.
Where are you at? Are you in West Virginia? Where are you at?
I live in Ohio, but
Okay.
I'm right on the border of the with the Northern Panhandle. Like, if you took out I don't know how well you know, like, interstates, but, like, if you took off east out of Columbus
Mhm.
and cross the Ohio River, I'm
Sure.
right there.
Okay. Oh,
So,
well, yeah.
I always joke it's like Pittsburgh had sex with Kentucky and we're the child, 'cause, like, there's people that say yins and downtown, and then there's people that say y'all and still have Confederate flags, and it's it's a mess down here, man.
I don't miss the Confederate flags since I've been
No,
out
I
here in
don't either.
Colorado. They're not here, and you'll see them in weird places that you don't expect. But that kind of speaks to, like, Southern memory and the adoption, or also like the diaspora, right? Like, some of these people move out from like wherever, and then like this is home and so forth. Like, I've got a big Kentucky flag outside my house most days, just because I'm like, I consider wherever I go to be like a Kentucky embassy. I'm like, I'm a Kentucky colonel. This house right here is Kentucky, like,
Mhm.
and so forth. So I get it, but no, I don't miss the Confederate flags because, yeah, I grew up with those. You know,
Yeah.
I don't miss
I'm
that
the
at all.
same way with West Virginia because I was born in West Virginia. We lived there till I was 5, I think.
Uh-huh.
Um, and, like and then I moved, like I can literally just about see my old house from my new house. Like, if this
Totally.
wall wasn't here behind me, you could see the river. And people are, like, making fun of me because 'cause I'm from West Virginia. I'm like, You're from West Vir like,
You're right.
this has more
Stop already. Yeah,
culturally,
exactly.
like, in common with West Virginia than anywhere else in Ohio." But so now I'm like, you know,
Did
but,
you did you watch the Hatfield and McCoy series a few years back that was
I
on
did not
TV?
know,
Um, I know the writer of that series, and he was on my pod recently, and when we were doing this, the Grey House series,
Yeah, mhm.
and, I was talking to him, and he's like, "Well, I didn't really know who to root for." I'm like, "Well," I was like, "Les, I'm a direct descendant of the McCoy family, so I can tell you who you should be rooting for. Those damn Hatfields of West Virginia can go to hell." So, but, that was actually news to me. Like, I found out that I was, like, McCoy descendant, like, 4 or 5 years ago, like, not recently. I was on Ancestry. It's like, "Whoa. Where did this come from?"
Yeah, that's
So,
crazy.
then I was like, "Hell yeah." Like, now I've got stakes in the game. Like, before I was like, those are like, when you're from Western Kentucky, you also make fun of the people from Eastern Kentucky,
Mhm.
right? But it's like that sibling thing. Like, I can make fun of my brother, but you can't. And there's like the poor mountain people. And now I find out that I too am a poor mountain people. So, and like, I'm out here in Colorado. Like, have you spent any time out here in Colorado at all?
Mm-mm.
There is this weird thing that goes on. So out here in Colorado, they have totally adopted bluegrass, which is
Mhm.
cool. Like, I think bluegrass is amazing. I want more and more people to listen to it. It's like, as a historian, there's all this cool stuff where you can like trace, the ancestors, trace the genealogy of music, right? Back to the old country in England and Scotland, and all these places, right? Um, but then also, they've got bourbon out here in Colorado, and they're like, "Look at our bourbon." I'm like, "Baloney." Am I allowed to curse? I'll just say baloney for now. And I'm like, "Stop it already." And then I had some, and it was good, and I was like, "Dang it." And they have peaches out here, so they got this Georgia thing too out here in Colorado. I'm serious, and the peaches are legit good. Like, because they grow them up in, like, these high altitudes, so the peach has to, like, struggle, and it gets, like, super sweet because the it's kinda like, how they grow grapes in, like, Argentina and stuff like that. It's these super high arid climates that makes the grapes super sweet, super fruit intense. So the peaches out here in Colorado are, like, legit good.
Hmm.
I just
That's
don't wanna
hilarious.
acknowledge it because, like, because I'm like, "No, South is better." They're like, "Try this." I'm like, "Hey, alright. It's good, I guess." So, yeah. But we got elk and all kinds of other critters out here that we can talk about, today too. Like, Colorado's been weird, man. I've lived all over the country. Like, so, when you asked me to come on, think about, like, the outdoors, like the areas I've lived in between, like, the Upper South, Kentucky and Tennessee, Florida, uh, then you got, like, the classic Midwest, like Kansas, where, like, the deer are the size of Buicks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just massive out there. In fact, I'm putting in, like, on April 1st, you can put in for your non-resident Kansas hunting license, and I'm going
Mm.
back because, like, the whitetail out there are so big. And then out here in Colorado, we're like, it's like the land of the lost. Everything is just gigantic in the mountain, but it's at 12,000 feet, and
Mhm.
I'm fat, and I don't wanna, I'm like, I see these guys who, like, go hunt this stuff, and they hike 6 miles in at 10,000 feet, and I'm like, I don't wanna kill an elk at 10,000 feet, 6 miles in, because then I gotta pack it out. Like, that sounds like the worst possible situation. So, yeah, I've seen things. So, when it comes to this stuff.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you are enjoying, it would be great if you could follow or subscribe wherever you're listening so you can see more episodes. Leave the show a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're on if that's applicable. Write us a review, all that stuff. You can also follow me and the show on Instagram at The Ground Between Us. I post there every day. And again, thank you so much for listening. This is so much fun for me. It's such a privilege to be able to do this. I have an incredible life, and I'm so thankful for it. And thank you for being a part of it. Now back to the show. Yeah, a lot of people, even, uh, like, with, like, Joe Rogan and Cam Hanes and, like,
Yeah,
the sort of the resurgence of, like, bow hunting,
totally.
there's been, like, this kind of, like, macho thing around it, and I don't think people actually consider what all of that actually entail. Like, even with whitetail, like, there are considerations to be made about where the deer is standing
Yeah.
when you shoot it, around here at least.
Yeah, totally, right, and, like, Cam Hanes is I think he's a really good ambassador for that, which is, like, the thing I really like about Cam Hanes is that he absolutely takes what he does seriously, like and I think sometimes when people come to the outdoors and, like, because I work in academia a lot, this isn't true for everybody, obviously, right? Because 'Cause I'm an academic and I've grown up hunting and fishing and stuff like that, and my second book is about a specific fish we can talk about in a bit, but, I think sometimes people when they don't come from hunting and they don't come from like this real kinship with the land, in the same way that maybe you and I have, there are like these assumptions, right? Like, oh,
Mm,
it's yeah, because you see the grip and grin stuff, and you turn on the TV and some guy sitting in the ground by, well, good, good old, doing the good old boy thing, and that annoys me. But a guy like Cam Haines, or even better, Steve Ranella, right? Um, and that whole meat eater crew, who I have like the highest respect for. Um, I talked to Ranella one time, and I was like, "What's up?"
oh, that's
Uh,
awesome.
he was such a cool guy, via email, but I
Yeah,
was still, like,
yeah.
happy because again, shoot your shot, you know?
Right.
But, you know, getting back to it, a guy like Cam Haines really trains to be physically fit so that when he is in the mountains and he comes across that elk at 30 yards or 60 yards in his regard or whatever, right? He's not quivering, he's not out of breath, he can hold a steady draw because he really means it when he says, "I want to offer this animal a clean death." And, when I talk to people who have never hunted before or kinda anti-hunting and stuff like that, they're like, "Oh, you're out there to kill." So I'm like, "Ask a coyote how if he thinks about a whitetail fawn when he comes like, no other animal
Yeah.
on planet Earth is thinking about how its prey feels when it is hunting it." You've seen those videos of like you ever watch like down in South Africa or South America where like the jaguars are hunting caimans and they're just jumping.
I
I'm
saw
like,
a video of that
it's
yesterday,
so
yeah.
cool, right? And but we've seen like in Africa, like what happens with like crocodiles don't care about gazelles and lions don't like it. This is the nature of it. But humans, I think in some regard, do think through this stuff, and I certainly do whenever I hunt. It's just like last thing I ever want to do is see that animal suffer. I do want to, hunting is important and it's natural and it's good. At the same time, I want to do it in ways that are honest to me. And the same way, like with fishing too. Frankly, like I don't want anything to suffer. I mean, so it's like when I hunt or I fish and I do claim a life. There's always that thrill of the moment, like you've done the thing, but also this great sense of, I think Eli, a sense of remorse, because
Mhm,
you have watched that animal breathe its last. And it's difficult at times. Like and look, when you're hunting, you also have to understand the fact that you are going to make a bad shot from time to time.
mhm.
It is going to happen. You're
Yep.
gonna you're gonna have a gut shot deer. You're gonna hit that animal in the spine and it's gonna go down and it's gonna be kicking or whatever, and you've got to follow up, right? Um, Sometimes the animal runs off and you lose the animal, right? And then you feel awful that you've killed an animal and didn't claim it or whatever, and so forth. That's less to me because I know that, like, if I obviously I don't want that has to happen, but like if I kill a deer and it gets away from me and I can't track it, and other predatory animals are going to claim that carcass like they would normally. It's not going to go to waste per se, right? Um, but it is important that as hunters that we are ethical in the things that we do, that we genuinely care about the animal, that we understand that we're part of this cycle. And I always tell people, I'm like, hunters and fishermen and outdoorsmen, people who do these things are probably the single greatest conservationists in the world because we have a keen understanding of what we are asking of ourselves and also asking of the animal to partake in this relationship. And I also think hunters and fishermen are some of the most acute scientists in the world when you think about it, right? If you talk to a fisherman down in the Florida Keys, right, they can tell you all about behavior patterns of tarpon, what they're eating, when they're eating. They can talk to you about tides. They can talk to you about water clarity, um, the effect that pollution has on not only the species but the habitat. hunters can also know, like, hey, this is we need to look for these types of grasses, or we need to look for these
Mm.
types of altitudes, or whatever. There is an incredible amount of thought that goes into being a hunter or being a fisherman, right? Same as like maybe a birder or something like that. I don't want to discount them as well. Like the people who enjoy the outdoors, who enjoy whether they're photographing or just watching through binoculars, or hunting or fishing, right? They're all engaging in this relationship with both the animal and the outdoors. And because of that, they are keenly aware of what's going on around them. And they're often the first people to make these reports about, hey, something's not right here, right? It's too warm here. We've had too much wind. We've had too much weather, whatever, right? Or it's a great year for this, or something's off. These are, I think, in a lot of ways we can think about hunters and fishermen as like first line scientists, right?
Yeah.
That's what they do, men and women, across the country and frankly across the world. People, they're keenly, acutely connected to these landscapes and ecosystems.
Yeah. Well, to your point, uh, I recently had on Dr. Stanley Temple from
Mhm.
the Leopold Foundation, and we were talking about how Leopold was actually one of the first like real phenologists in the United
Sure.
States, and the data that he kept, keeping track of those seasonal events, those things like you talk about, actually ended up being fairly important for climate change research down the line. And his it was his daughter, not his granddaughter, was
Right.
also involved in that. She picked up his record, um, kind of later on down the line. Your point earlier about, like, hunting looking a little bit strange from the outside, I think people are under the misapprehension that we're doing it for fun, and there
Mhm.
there are fun aspects of it, and
Right.
I enjoy it, it's a very important thing to me, but I don't think fun is the right word for it, you know what I mean? Because it's not like, "Whee!" It's
It's
not like
not.
going
I
on the
mean, some people
merry-go-round
are
or
like
something.
that, but it's a rare part. The
Mm,
vast majority of hunters and fishermen, men and women, um, that partake in this, there's certainly an enjoyment, but it's not because of a kill or
mm,
something like that. I think it is the engagement,
mhm,
the centering of one's self on maybe a spiritual level with the outdoors. I know for me, when I can't get outside, I get cranky, I get fussy. I need to commune with the
mhm,
outdoors. And some people will say that from a religious aspect. They need to like commune with their maker or whoever and things like that. And I get that, right? But it's when we do these things, there's certainly a pride aspect, right? Like, um, if you're able to take that lifetime trophy elk, right? But you don't get to do that every year. That's not what
yeah,
those
with
things
with
don't matter,
with
right?
whitetail, it's a little different, but yeah,
Right,
um,
you know?
but
Um,
it's also, at least it should be in my opinion, you should look at that as a testament to how incredible it is that the land could produce these animals, not
Absolutely.
necessarily your individual accomplishment, you know what I mean?
Right. It's so much, about when you go out and you've been out there. You and I have both been out in the woods and like gone days without seeing anything. Right. And then you have that
Mm,
opportunity. Maybe you're successful, maybe you're not. But for me, I always say it's like when I go fishing, I'm like, if I tie my enjoyment of fishing to actually catching a fish, and I'm much more of a fisherman than a hunter. Um, if I tie my enjoyment to catching a fish, like, I'm missing the point. The point is the pursuit. It's the discovery. It's that Larry Dahlberg, who used to host this show called The Hunt for Big Fish, talks about this a lot. Um, talks about, like, when you go out fishing to an area, Eli, if I come out to visit you in Ohio, right? And I'm like, "Hey," the last thing I'm ever gonna ask you is like, "Hey, where should I go in this river to find this fish?" Right? Because if I do that and then you tell me, like, I've robbed myself of that moment of discovery, of that process of learning that river on my
mhm,
own. And, like, if I go do that, like, and I catch a fish at that bend in the river that you told me about, well, I'm fishing your spot.
mm,
But if I discover that same bend in the river on my own, well, that's my spot, right?
mhm,
This becomes a thing. So, um, it's when we talk about the enjoyment of the whole process, it's the process of preparing, of like looking at maps, planning things out, planning your days off, clearing this with your husband or your wife, when you're gonna go out, sitting in the tree stand, watching that field and those trail cams over the spring and summer and seeing what's coming out there, planting those fields if you're putting clover or alfalfa or
Mhm.
whatever out there, for whitetail. Um, all of these things, um, Steve Rinella talks about type 2 fun a lot,
Mhm.
right? About the idea of people listening in. Type 1 fun, there's 2 types of fun, right? Type 1 fun is like going to an amusement park and you ride the roller coaster and you do things and it's fun in the moment, but you don't really remember it. Type 2 fun is when you go out there and you suffer. You climb that mountain, you spend all that time, fishing and don't catch anything until that one bite or whatever. It's kinda painful. It rained all weekend or whatever while you're out there. Those are the days, especially when you're with your friends and you're, like, on a trek, like, or maybe you're hiking and you're on a long hiking trip, and, enjoying the outdoors doesn't just have to be, tied to a rifle or a bow in your hand, um, when it's miserable out there. But then, those are when those stories really become ingrained in your heart, and you're like, "I had the best time." And when you
Yep.
think about those, you get to relive those, and they're just as fun, in memory, maybe even more so because the deer always get bigger, the puddles, the rain gets worse every time you tell that story, right? And stuff. So, yeah, that's what that is, and really, ultimately, I think all you can do is share that with the world, and it's I gotta tell you, Eli, I've often struggled with that, a sense of identity, right? Because I was a bit, I when I was a kid, my father was this big, big hunter and fisherman, and I come from a long line of people in Western Kentucky. My entire family's always, um, made their living catching catfish on trot lines in, like, Kentucky Lake, Tennessee River, like Barkley, Cumberland River, places like that, right? My dad worked in a factory and also ran trot lines in Ohio, in this town called Uniontown, this small little spit of a town near Henderson, Kentucky. Um, but I actively rebelled against that when I was a kid because I was, like, smart, right? And that's not what smart people do, and bear with me, guys. I know I sound like a bit of an a-hole at first, but just listen for the gradual transition to life. Um, Learn to speak without my accent, right? I don't speak with a natural Kentucky accent. I can, but I always sound like a fraud now that I'm so old. My mom, she's like, why, don't, you don't sound like us anymore, Jason. Stop that. She's like, I'm like, hi, mom. She's no, that's not who you are. I was like, okay. So I kind of rebelled against that by actively not fishing and not hunting as a child, right? And I was like, I'll be the smart kid, and I'll be the whatever, right? Kids are kids. And then as I got older and moved away and like moved to Florida in my early 20s, eventually I was like, I really wanted to understand, like, and my father and I kind of drifted apart. And I wanted some sense of, like, understanding my family roots and stuff like that, so I picked up a rod again. My mom was a tournament bass fisher. She won, like, the
Oh.
2013 ladies bass angling world title in, like,
Oh,
2000.
wow.
She's good. She's really good. I talked to her today. I don't wanna bring it up. She gets a little cocky on this. She's like, "No, no, no." I'm like, "Well, pick up a fly rod. You don't know anything about that, mom." Whatever. She's great. Hi, mom.
Yeah.
Um,
My mom shot a 130 some inch buck resting off the hood of her Suburban in the driveway once, so I
yeah,
understand how
right.
that
You've
goes.
got those stories, right? So, so I really wanted to reconnect with, like, what it meant to be and, who to be like a Kentuckian in Florida, because like, now I'm a stranger in a strange land. So who am I now? Well, now you're, like, going back now you're trying to go back and try to cling on to, like, what makes you different, what makes you who you were, right? "Oh, well, in Kentucky, my people do this." Or like, well, it's like, "Okay, I'm not wealthy, so we don't have thoroughbreds." And, and we're too far west to get into bourbon. So it's basketball and hunting and fishing and stuff like that. Uh, so I kind of went back and really started rediscovering this as an adult and really had this new appreciation for it because it was like, okay, and in Florida, then I got to go do my own take on being from Kentucky, right? Because now I'm chasing largemouth bass at times, but then I'm going after, peacock bass down in West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale and stuff like that, or I'm going after a dolphin in Florida. We call them dolphin mahi to people outside of Florida. The proper name is dolphin fish. We call them dolphin there. Dolphin or sailfish or tuna or whatever, or bonefish or something, or tarpon. Tarpon in a kayak, man, there's just hardly anything better than that. There's an amazing book. I wish everybody would read it. About tarpon fishing. That I am absolutely shit. Now oh, there it is. I was like drawing a blank on the book. Lords of the Fly. Oh my gosh, I've read this book like so many times now. And so forth. And I started like watching all these guys on TV and like, okay, I will find my new heroes, Jose Wehebe and Flip Pallet and all these dudes, right? And then we moved out to Kansas and I started hunting whitetail, or like, there's these giant dinosaur looking animals called whitetail deer in Kansas. They're so big. In Kentucky, and I'm assuming the same thing in like West Virginia, like the population of whitetail is so many, it's everywhere, right? Not quite the same thing. Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, we're northern, further north, so we're in like the foothills. We're not in the mountains.
Right.
And then it's weird, like right across the river, like I can go where I hunt in Marshall County in West Virginia because my parents, so one of the sickest things anyone's ever done for me, in West Virginia, you can buy someone a lifetime hunting, fishing, trout stamp. And the earlier you buy it, the less it costs. So
Awesome.
I've been a licensed hunter and fisherman since I was 16 months old.
Okay.
So like I can still go over there. I've never have to worry about a license at all. You know what I mean? It was one of the greatest gifts anybody's ever given me. But anyway, where I go over there, like you can see 20 deer a day.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Yeah, but there's no. I mean, the bucks are starting to get a little bigger, but you come over here, which is like, it's got to be less than 20 miles as the crow flies, and like if I see a deer during a hunt, I'm like, today was a very good day. But someone on our property or one of the surrounding properties shoots a 140, 150 inch buck every year. Easy. Yeah. My dad and my brother both shot one this year. And I missed the one my brother shot before he shot it. But yeah, so it's just crazy how it's different across the distribution. But yeah, as you were saying, in Kansas, the genetics are different and the food is insane.
Yeah, they're just huge.
Yeah.
Can I give you my hot take on hunting licenses, hunting and fishing licenses? All right, here's my thing, right? I believe, like, no matter where I go in this world, I'm always an American citizen, right? I was born in the United States. I have American rights and things like that. I feel like I should always have Kentucky state privileges. I was born in Kentucky. Like, I should be able to like hunt and pay resident licensing fees in Kentucky for fishing, and I am offended that I have to buy non-resident licenses when I go back to Kentucky. I'm like, how dare you? I am a Kentucky colonel. I have been knighted by the governor of Kentucky, and I still have to pay these outrageous fees. Like, it's not right. And I doth protest. So I wish that like you got to like be able to like claim your residency in the state that you were born in. And then also like whatever state you live in and things like that. Cause like I moved up to Colorado. I couldn't claim residency in Colorado until I was here a year. And I was annoyed because I had to like fish when I first got here. I was going nuts. And moving here from Florida was so difficult for so many reasons. But one of which was that the fish in Colorado are tiny. They got these little trout out here in these rivers. They're like, ooh, it's a 12-incher. And I'm like, that's the size of a mullet. Like, we have bait bigger than that back. And I don't want to be the guy who's like, it's much better back home, or what'd you leave, whatever, right? But still, I mean, Florida will spoil you when it comes to fishing. But I have learned how to fly fish since I've been out here. And I'm like, I'm getting decent. I'm not good, but like, and the terminology of fly fishing is beyond me. I'm never going to pick this up. It's like a foreign language. All these flies, like, oh, you want to have a number 12 midge, that hairy booger, woolly bottom, rusty trombone. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Just give me the one that looks like the bug. Can I have the bug one? It's like, which bug goes underwater? I'll take that one. Is it coming black? Black will be great. you know?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm not good enough at spin casting to be like, okay, I'm ready to
Right.
move up to fly fishing yet. But the pretense of fly fishing has always really put me off. It's just some dude with like a 5 bill or a 5 panel flat bill hat who's like
Oh yeah.
telling you what bug he saw under a rock, and it's like, okay, I can appreciate that from like a naturalist standpoint of like needing to know what's hatching right now.
Yeah.
But it's always like, oh, you want to this fly and this presentation and your own nymphing and false
Yeah.
casting, and I'm like,
What are you talking
okay,
about, bro? Yeah, like so I actually struggled, Eli, and I don't know about you, but like coming from like working class Kentucky, like I struggle with this idea of this classism instead of like fly fishing, right? Like this is a thing that the wealthy do or something like
mhm,
that. Now it's not actually not the case because there are a lot of regular people like me and you who fly fish out here in Colorado, right? But I had it in my own mind that it's like only the wealthy do this, right? And that's and I was a little apprehension like I really enjoy going to I enjoy going to, like, fly stores because they all look different, but they're all kind of the same too. Like,
mhm,
they have the like, each town has its own vibe, and I've got, like, so many stickers sitting on my table over there from this fly fishing show I was just at a month and a half ago that I haven't put away yet. So I enjoy it, but it's a different culture
yeah,
and stuff. But you know what? I mean, and that's the reason why, I'm gonna write this book on catfish in the United States is because for me, I look at this animal, this amazing animal that's provided, a living for generations of my family, um, but kinda gets looked down. If you ever try to get people to eat catfish who have never
oh yeah,
eaten catfish
mhm,
before, they
mhm,
don't wanna do it. I'm
mhm,
like, "You don't know because 'cause it's got this reputation, it's muddy, it's not a very attractive looking fish at all, I get that. Um, who cares what it looks like when you're cutting it open and eating its insides? Um, it is such in my mind, it's a noble fish, Eli. It's like this is you look around, if you look on social media and you look around at all of the people who catch catfish, it's almost all working class people who catch catfish, but it's not related to race. There are white people, there are black people, there are people from like Vietnam where catfish is very big over there, who come over migrant families, Hispanic families, like you if you're it's truly a class identifier. If you catch catfish and you eat catfish, you're working class. And that's where I identify it. Like I can give a poo where you're from or what you look like. You're one of me. You know, you got to struggle for it. And for me, I look at this noble fish that is like swimming around the bottom of the lake. It's not in the rivers. I mean, it is, but like it's not in the Colorado rivers. It's in the muddy ass Tennessee River, in the Mississippi, and the Ohio. Right? It's like it's in the people's rivers. It's not in the ocean like this. Um, you don't need a lot of money to go catch catfish.
yeah,
You need ugly stick and and some worms, and you're good. Some chicken livers, you're solid. I really love this. In fact, in my family, I'll tell you this. Um, my grandfather died a few years ago. In fact, those are his ashes in that catfish right above my shoulder there, that little thing next to the people listening at home. There's actually a wooden cutout of the state of Kentucky. It says home next to it. So my grandfather caught catfish till the day he died, right? Ran trot lines and stuff like that. And I actually was asked to give the eulogy at his funeral, right? Which was cool. It was biggest, I've give speeches all over the world for the stuff that I do and all that stuff. And which is cool. Like, I talk about history and all this stuff. But to me, it was the single most important discussion I ever gave, right? A talk I ever gave. But one of the things I really keyed in on is our family actually has this history of this giant catfish, right? And this story is like my great grandfather was in this John boat with my grandfather and a family friend, and they were running trot lines out near the dam, Kentucky Lake, Tennessee River, and up floats this big old flathead catfish, right? And he's not on the line; he's just swimming there, just kind of comes to the surface, and it's a big catfish. And my great grandfather, Pippa Hurley Chadwick is his name, looks at it and says, "There he is. There's Ekenhammer." Now, Eli, I have no idea what the name Ekenhammer means, and neither does anyone else in my family, except for that's the name of this damn catfish. Now, mind you, here's what happens over time. Over time, like every other family story, the stories change, right? it's my great grandfather's always in the boat, but then it's like, if you ask my distant cousins, it's my grandfather's brother who was in the boat, right? And stuff like it was their kin, their direct kin, and stuff. And now the fish continually gets bigger. Now it starts off at 4 feet long. Then it goes to the size of the John boat. Now it's 14 foot long. Now it's a half mile long, this catfish, right? It's this magical growing catfish over generations, named Ekenhammer. It's the only thing that stays the same. But every single person. And when I gave the eulogy in the funeral, right, and I'm getting out there and I'm like, I'm going all like Southern Baptist dude, right? Just like, whatever, right? I couldn't go full Southern Baptist because that meant everybody in the church was going to go to hell. But like, I'm giving this story, and I'm looking out. I'm there in the center. I'm giving the story. I'm looking out to all the family and friends. And I get to this part where I'm talking about the catfish, and I swear to you, all the families doing this like, they're doing the head nod like, yes, that is right. Go on, Jason. You got tell that story about that catfish, right?
Amen, brother Jason.
Hammer, right? Exactly. So, when I finished my doctoral dissertation, in 22, and you have like when you write a dissertation book, you always have like the dedication, right, to it. It's usually on my loving wife and my children or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Mine says for Ekenhammer, because if you read for Ekenhammer and you knew who Ekenhammer was, it meant you remember my family or very close family friends. And that was my way of saying to them that I loved them, because it was like this animal was this kinship. And so I've always kind of had this love affair with catfish of all the creation of all the animals, because it's like this is the working class's fish. This is what we have and stuff, and it's always been an important thing to us. So, I wrote my dissertation on cattle in Florida. And it's what the first book is going to be about. But the second book is definitely about catfish of all things. So, and I can talk about this animal all day long because I think it's special. It's our fish, man.
Yeah, you're definitely. I mean, I've never catfished at all, but you're definitely speaking my language because, like, I work because I live so close to the PA border. Like, most of the people I work with live in Pittsburgh, which is weird because I work for an environmental consultant, and like they're all based in Pittsburgh, but then they all drive down to Wheeling. It's like, why don't you guys just be in Wheeling? But anyway. But the fishing culture is very different, even just up there in Pennsylvania, and they're very serious, and like they're talking about their set. Guys like, well, what kind of rod do you like? I'm like, buddy, literally every rod I own has been pulled out of a dumpster by my grandpa. when his Lions Club has their dumpster days, he pulls out all the poles. I said the main one I use right now is missing like 2 eyelets. Right. It used to be a half a foot longer than it is. I shut the tip in a car door and just snipped it off and kept running. So like, yeah, I mean, I think, I grew up fishing for stalker trout, and it's very similar where like you need like a can of power bait or some worms or something. In the case of catfish, you need like hot dog or chicken liver or whatever. But like
night crawlers,
where I grew up,
right.
Where I grew up, catfishing is what you did when you were like 17 and you had a mullet and square-toed boots and a jacked-up truck, and you wanted to drink beer all night with your buddies and have an excuse to not be at home. You would go out and you would catfish at night. But
it's what it's what you can do. There's that old nitty-gritty dirt band song, "Fishing in the Dark," right?
Mm-hmm.
And stuff. And I think there's a real affection for that. And I know that I'm guilty of romanticizing it at times as well, but it's still very something that I kind of carry with me no matter what. And, things have been a little different with my family, frankly, since the most recent election because the way things went out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been difficult at times because I talk about my connections to my family through this animal. And I'm like, I worry sometimes, Eli, that I might not ever have that again. And again, that kind of speaks, I think, sometimes to the power of kind of what this pod is about, is like the power of the outdoors to make connections between family members. You may not agree with them or whatever, you might not see somebody, but then you start talking about, what are the deer looking like back home, right? Or how's turkey season coming along or whatever. It has so much more to do than just the pursuit of an animal. There's these real connections and kinships that happen, when your mother or father are taking you out to hunt for the first time. I remember one of my favorite memories of my late father was like going out on Lake Barkley in Western Kentucky, and staying camping for like a week. And I was on this little dock and I was just pulling bluegill out of this little hole right off the side of that dock just all day long. I remember growing up in Louisiana when we were down there. Down there they got crappie down there, but down there they call them sacalé, right? It's the Cajun word for crappie. Sacalé means a bag of milk, actually. White crappie down there. But good. And I remember catching more fish than my mom or my stepdad or my brother. And I was like overjoyed, right?
Mhm.
It's these connections
Yeah.
that connect you to your family, to your friends, and they'll ultimately help you to identify like who you are in this world. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the real power of the outdoors. The reason why it's so important to protect it.
Yeah, I was gonna make the same point as it builds a sense of connection and a sense of place. So when I was young, I guess they would have lost the lease when I was like 11 or 12, somewhere in there. But when I was really young, my dad and my pap used to go to a deer camp down on a mountain called Mount Storm in southern West Virginia. And it was like, I think they leased like 300 acres, but it was surrounded by coal mine and timber company property. So they could just run roughshod wherever they wanted, riding four-wheelers, hunting, and like that built such a sense of adventure in me. Um, and it built connections with them. I was only down there maybe 10 times in my life. It's fun. And this camp was like literally a logging camp from the 40s. Like,
Totally.
I know for a fact my wife, if I took her there, she would be like, "You're taking me the fuck home right now. Like,
Yeah,
we are
totally.
not sleeping in this building, laying down in your bunk at night and there's snake skins hanging out of the rafters." But like to this day, the smell of mildew still makes me nostalgic because I remember that camp. And you were telling your what was it, Ermhammer?
Ekenhammer.
Ekenhammer
Yeah.
story. Yeah, my pap has a similar story. When they were down there, they built this huge, they called it the fire tower, like a big tower stand, back
Mm.
before those were really a thing. And they had to haul in all this lumber and stuff because you would have to drive towards the end, you could drive clear down the camp. But for a long time, you would have to drive to the train tracks and then carry all your shit or drive on four-wheelers down to the camp. And their first day they're hunting in this stand, it's like 8 in the morning, and uh like a spike or a forky runs along. And back then, like the hunting culture, even in West Virginia, is very different. It's like, if it's a legal deer, they're shooting it. So my dad always tells it, he hears a shot, and then a couple minutes later, he hears a beer crack open. And then he's facing the other way from Pap, and this stand had a trap door to get into like the box at the top. And he's sitting there and cigar smoke starts wafting past his head. And eventually my pap says, "Yeah, I got it, but I think I'm just gonna sit here a while." And dad says, "You're goddamn right. I'm sitting on the door. You ain't going anywhere." So, there's all these like, this like family mythology almost that's built, and it connects you with people, and it connects like a big reason why probably you feel like, well, you've just explained why you feel like a Kentuckian because of these things, why I feel like a West Virginian. Um, is because it builds that sense of place in people. And like again, like the people I work with who grew up in the city who don't have any sense of, and it's not like that they're disrespecting any, but they just don't understand. Like for example, when you go to a farm, like don't climb on people's gates, like be real careful with fences, things like that. Just stuff that you understand if you have this sense of place and you've grown up on the land, that get imbued into you. Um, So yeah, and I'm frankly like very concerned about a lot of things going on in conservation, and like very worried that my son won't be able to see things like ruffed grouse, for example,
Sure.
or mule deer aren't doing all that great. But um, yeah, I think there's a lot of things going on around public land that are. I forgot you're a Forest Service employee, so if there's anything you
No,
don't want
no,
to talk about or can't talk about, I can edit
well,
it out. But
no, no, no. So I can tell you this, whereas I can't speak for the Forest Service or anything like that, I can tell you why
Mhm.
I went into working for the Forest Service. I think that's probably fine. Um, And, the reason why I can't speak of the Forest Service isn't just because of, like, any particular belief or anything like that. Just like it's not my job to, right? It's like I don't know. Frankly, I don't know enough to be able to speak. I've been with the Forest Service for a couple of years now. All I can really tell people about is how much I love it and how amazing the people are that I work with. Because I've got like the most amazing people out here in Colorado. And then, of course, I'm a tribal liaison, so I've had the most amazing experience working with tribes out here in Colorado and also Western Kansas. Um, who also obviously care about the land and hunt and fish and, recreate and have a really a deep connection personally, spiritually, to these landscapes and also want to see them stewarded as well as they possibly can. So, and I would tell you that because of all of those things, because of my affection for the landscape, because I grew up hunting and fishing or, have these deep family ties to it, it's ultimately why I kind of, when I became a historian, I started focusing on indigenous history, and then more and more it was like this relationship between indigenous people and the environment. And I had the opportunity to go back and teach at universities, and I kept turning them down, and which was weird because I told myself all I wanted to do was be a college professor. And it was the fact that out here in Colorado, getting to work with tribal members across numbers of tribes, and getting to spend time in the landscape, you're standing on the side of a mountain and you're looking down at, bighorn sheep, right? I've seen, when those sheep are dropping or when they're dropping lambs, it's such a cool thing to see those little babies out there, or to see elk or see moose. They're so big. It's hard to explain to somebody just how big a moose is. You think an elk
Mhm.
is big until you see a moose, and
Mm.
it just reorients your understanding of what charismatic megafauna really are.
Yeah, we ran into a cow moose on our honeymoon in Glacier National Park, and it was like, holy that
Yeah,
like, we owned a horse for a while when I was growing up that was 18 hands tall, and that moose was bigger than that horse, without a
yeah,
doubt. They were
and
huge, but
And then you think about, like, the animals that prey on moose, like a brown bear, grizzly bear, right? Who can just absolutely break a moose's back with a swat. I mean, how powerful, you know?
Mhm,
One of my favorite, historians, his name is Dan Flores. He's written a bunch
mhm,
of stuff. He's been on my pod before. I had to try to not man crush on him, when he was on. But, he writes about what he terms charismatic megafauna. We're talking about these big animals, these super animals, these moose and, wolves and bears and stuff like that. And, earlier even, um, really amazing animals, pronghorn antelope, which we have here in
mhm,
Colorado. We have tons of them out here actually, and they're like the last surviving animal of the Pleistocene. And you can get a sense of like what the Pleistocene was like just by looking at this animal, going, "Wait a second! If you look at a pronghorn antelope to this day, there's nothing in North America that can come close to its speed. It can
oh, they're
outrun
crazy.
everything. It's so fast." And the reason why it's so fast, it has amazing eyesight. So when people hunt them, they have to hunt them for like really, really far away. Um, the reason why it has amazing eyesight and it could run super fast is because all of the things that were preying on it were super fast and had amazing eyesight, and it had to develop these skill sets. Now, the animals that were preying on it are no longer, in North America, but we can get a sense of it. So you look at the animal like pronghorn, dude. It's like a walking history lesson from
Yeah.
10,000 years ago. It's so cool. Um, I just geeked out. I just nerded out. But that's like, if you guys have not had the chance to read Dan Flores, if you haven't read Coyote America yet, right, you are missing out. If you haven't read American Serengeti, or you haven't read Wild New World, which is my favorite book ever written, if you really want, if you're not into history, but like you want to learn about like hunting, like those are the books. Because he doesn't
Mhm,
write like he's not snobby. He's like he curses, like he talks about my favorite two, my favorite two words of any book come out of Wild New World. He's talking about the violent extirpation of megafauna in North America, um, and he's like, "It's fucking bullshit," He's like, "Oh no," he goes, "It's fucking pathetic," is what it
mhm.
is, and I was like, "That's how we need to talk about the outdoors. If we want people to care, we got to show that we care. Whether you're a historian, an angler, hunter, a lawyer, whatever it is that you are." And you get back to this idea of like people in the city might not have these relationships to these landscapes. Absolutely. How could you, right? If you don't. So it's on to us to be ethical stewards of the land and show in ways that people might engage with, see, like our social media post or a Substack writing or a picture we might share on our phone, that we represent what it is that we do as hunters, as fishermen, as outdoors people, men and women, that we have the highest respect for the animals that we hunt, the fish that we angle, the outdoors that we try to steward. And we show why we hold in such reverence, why we revere these spaces so much, and invite them to come along and be like, hey, it's okay that you never done this before. Everybody starts somewhere, right?
Yep.
I kind of had to start all over again in my 20s and had this wonderful learning process of all that. And I think if you bring it to people, say, this is a really cool thing, let me show it to you. And if you don't like it, that's totally cool. But I'd love to share it with you. Chances are they're gonna be pretty open to it. And even if they don't get into it, they'll understand why that you are.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where we go, and
Yeah.
I really think that's what's key. And I think people like Steven Ranella is probably the single most important hunter and fisherman in the country, because of what he's been able to do with Meat Eater, because that entire crew are such amazing ambassadors for the pursuit,
Yeah.
and that's a cool thing.
Yeah, Ranella, I mean, I had kind of moved away from hunting in like my late teens. I'd gotten older,
Mhm.
and just like when I grew up, it wasn't even like, basically if I had the chance to hunt, I went and hunt. And if I didn't, I felt guilty about it. Like it wasn't even like looked at as recreation in my brain. Now that wasn't like explicitly told. I'm not trying to like it wasn't explicitly told to me by anyone, you know what I mean? It's not like my dad was yelling at me if I didn't go hunting, but that's just how I thought about it. And um I kind of got sick of that, but when I discovered Meat Eater and sort of his ability to articulate a lot of the feelings and things that like I know that like my dad and my pap, that's well, you're from Kentucky, so you know, but for anybody who doesn't, that's hillbilly for grandpa. That's
Mhm.
what we call grandpas around here. But those attitudes that I know they had, um, they're both union carpenters for almost 50 years. Like they don't they're not,
You just got the
waxing
fist
poetic
bump for
about
me
the
for a
deer.
union member, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I tell you, real fast, like, my
Sure, sure,
dad
sure.
my stepdad was IBEW, he's passed on now.
Mm,
My stepdad was a union guy. I never thought I'd be, member of a union, 'cause I'd be an academic, but, I'm a member of a union now, and I hear somebody's a union, I'm like, "Let's go."
yeah.
I want unions coming back because your union membership is the lowest in the country right now and so important to
No,
protecting our rights as workers, our
mhm.
families, frankly, the things that we care about, we've gotta have a voice. Unions are good. People will tell you that, whatever, no, you've seen too many mob movies, okay? The reality is this is our voice.
Yeah, I mean, I know around here and in some other places there are still some elements of that in unions, but overall, I think they're a resounding win. Like I won't, I'm very unapologetically pro union, but
Every time I look at my paycheck, I see that union due come out. I'm telling you, I love it. Because that
mhm,
is my protections, that's my voice, that is me expressing my concern for my fellow worker, right? And
mhm,
dude, union all day long, every day. I am the biggest union advocate. I'm yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah, but where was oh, but anyway, they were carpenters, so they're not like waxing poetic about deer hunting, but
Right.
hearing Steve talk about these things and the way he treated food was really interesting to me because like we always just you took out the back straps, you ground everything else. That was the end of it.
Oh,
Now,
no.
granted, I've gone back to that only because that's how I'm actually gonna use food. Like
Right.
my wife will eat ground deer. She's not gonna eat like deer roasts and deer shanks and stuff. So like that's just how we're gonna go through it. But I didn't even realize that you could like cut steaks and things like the sort of the level of respect which he went with with the processing, blew my mind too. And then I found Aldo Leopold, and that just, took
Yeah.
it to a whole nother level, and that sent me on personal journeys, like reading about not just outdoors or environmental philosophy, but just like philosophy in general and things that
But, yeah, it's, and, the nice thing is when you meet other people who are into the outdoors, there is an immediate bond,
Mhm.
and a connection. as well, right? So, I mean, so again, just like with the union or whatever, it's like these are the things. And certainly public lands are super important because they belong
Oh,
to all of us, right?
yes.
One of my favorite shirts is public land. Is Brunello's got a shirt that says public landowner,
Mhm.
which I'm a
Yeah,
big
it's
fan of, right?
I think it's backcountry hunters and
Yeah,
anglers, but
there
yeah,
you
I
go.
have one of
Right.
those shirts. Yep.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
great, right? Um, and now Cal, I think Cal's running the show over there now. Is Callahan's
VHA,
running?
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, um, there's a whole list of like people to look up after people listening to this episode and stuff like that. It's a cool thing, man. And again, my connection to the landscape really informs who it is that I do. It sends me with a sense of purpose in the things that I do, whether it's
Mhm.
work, whether it's relation, whatever. My partner Amy and I were going to head off to Vancouver here in a couple
Oh,
weeks,
cool.
and I'm so excited to see that landscape, to see those orcas. I told her all I want to do is like eat seafood and watch whales. That's it. I was like, we can do whatever you want. Just let me see the land. And one
Yeah.
of the big things we've got planned is just a big 4-hour drive through the countryside,
Mhm.
and that'll be great. So, and more seafood. I like to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so those are the things that matter.
Right. That's the point I was gonna make earlier, and, we're coming up on our time here, so we'll wind it down here soon. But actually, how I found out about you was you had Zach Graham on,
Oh yeah, Zach's
and
great.
I went to West Lib. I worked in the crayfish lab. It was before Dr. Graham worked there. I worked under Dr. Loafman,
Okay.
who is also a really interesting guy. He I don't think he's written like any like sort of general audience books. Most of his books are more science specific, but he's a crayfish expert. He's also like this crazy snake dude. But anyway, um I think it's also important to remember that like charismatic megafauna aren't the only ways to
Right,
like sort
totally.
of get into, because things like crayfish, things like I was thinking the other day about birds, like how fucking boring my life would, like how much interesting things it adds to my day just to be like, oh, I wonder what bird that was. Oh, was that a Cooper's hawk or a sharp shinned? You know what I mean? You're driving down the road and a bird swoops down. You're like, oh, what was that? And just like these little opportunities to build this. Aldo Leopold talked about perception, like
Mhm,
how we develop our wilderness is not by actually developing it, like building facilities and it's by developing people's understanding of it.
sure.
Um, and they're the little things are just, well, I won't say they're just as interesting because sometimes they're not, but they can still be interesting, and they can still help build that perception in people.
Yeah, totally. And actually, just to speak to Zach, Zach actually reminds me of another guy I really admire who is his name is Solomon David, who he runs the Gar lab up the at my alma mater at the University of Minnesota.
Mm,
And they take these traditional animals, garfish, which were long considered to be trash fish, and he's really done such an amazing job being an advocate for this animal, and saying, "Look, this is an amazing animal, a key animal of our ecosystem, and it should be appreciated." Um, and things like that. And I think Zach's doing some really cool stuff with crawfish, man, because like what he's doing out there, he's got that enthusiasm. I've got his book; it's really great. He's such an advocate for it. I just love the guy. I'm hoping to have him back on because he's terrific. So a
yeah, he will
huge
be.
fan of Zach.
Yeah. Yeah, you should talk to him about having Loafman on too, because he's a real he's a little more, unhinged than Graham. Graham is a little more sort of reserved and stately, I would say, and Loafman, it fits a little more like the crazy field scientist, stereotype a little bit, but they're both they're both really fun in their own way.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll wrap this thing up, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to plug anywhere where people can find you or
Yeah,
what have
absolutely.
you?
Sure. You can find me across the board. My handle on social media on Blue Sky Instagram is at Herbert History, HerbertHistory. You can find my own podcast, Reckoning with Jason Herbert, anywhere you listen to it. And as far as I'm going to give you my last hot take when it comes
Okay.
to animals, which is more people should be eating squirrel. I know I'm crazy. Give me squirrel gravy. I'm all day. People are like, wait, what? What did you just? Yeah, absolutely. Squirrel's great. Eat your squirrel, kids. It's good for you.
Yeah,
So
I definitely I should eat more squirrel.
it's a nice
It's hard
campaign.
Yeah, it's
Not
hard to
squirrel.
get out because I've only got the same place I would squirrel hunt is the place I would deer hunt, and I don't want to blow out my deer hunting woods squirrel hunting before deer season. But
I
it's
feel you.
definitely a very underrated wild game. I would agree with that for sure.
Love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
All righty. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Eat more squirrel, and remember, we're all standing on the same ground.